What's up, y'all? Welcome back to another episode. In this episode, we're going to be going through the SearchViewController. And actually, this is episode 6 in our test-driven development series. So let's just get into it. So yeah, we're working with the SearchViewController this episode. And there's one thing I want to know actually before we start coding away is, so on this specific like account, I guess, because this isn't my this isn't the one I use regularly on my MacBook. The simulator doesn't let me switch between light and dark mode, and that's something I actually have to look into. But let's run our project and see. I'll try to get that fixed, and then we can cause I want to test. I like being able to test very easily how it's for light mode and dark mode. So what are we gonna be doing this episode? We're working with the SearchViewController, and with the SearchViewController. So let's go to the finished product. We actually want to implement a UISearchController within the SearchViewController, and that'll make it very easy to search for something and have the results update. Excuse me. Right, you can see here. It'd be something like this. All right, so let's get into it. Let's run some tests first, actually, before we do anything. Make sure our tests are running smoothly. All right, we should be good. And I'm gonna click on this thing right here on the right, cause I want to pull up the home view controller tests, because they're gonna follow a similar pattern. Because within our SearchViewController, we need to set up a table view and a few other things. So that's why I'm doing that. So let's get into it. So I think if you notice, I changed the name of this function to match what I have in the home view control, just to keep things like symmetrical. It's good across your project to keep things symmetrical. And on that note, let's just copy paste this name. And let's do one more thing actually. Since we know that we're going to be using the SearchViewController a lot, we can just set it up now. We don't have to wait for till it's all over this page to refactor it. And make sure you use the one that just says func and not the class one, because you don't want to use that one. What do we need to do? Var set is a SearchViewController. All right. And when you set up, you also want to tear down. You want to tear down because you don't want to have the same instance of a SearchViewController being used for multiple tests. So set equals no, because that could give you errors and throw off your tests, and inefficient too. All right, so now let's go back to this. So when set load view if needed, what are we gonna do? Then we want to test assert not nil that the table view dot delegates is not nil, and then svt assert table view data source. And these might not populate for you. I don't think so. Let's run this test. And yeah, we have no member table view. So we're gonna go to our SearchViewController and let's just add in a table view here. Let table view equals table view. Huh. Sometimes I mess up. All right, so configure table. Let's set up another function. Configure navbar. Private func configure navbar. And let's create the private func configure table. All right, so the reason I want to configure navbar is because I want to remove this out of here. Make it cleaner. And you could remove the view background, although I like it there. I don't know why, I just always liked changing my background right below the view did load. Maybe it's weird. I don't know. Y'all let me know in the comments. All right, let's add this to the subview. And then one thing we want to do really quickly let's register the cell because you'll forget. I mean, I forget. And then you'll be like, why isn't the cells showing up? And one more thing, we can set the frame of this table. Equal view.bounds, although you want to use table view, not table. And if you go back to our test, this should still fail. Actually, the test didn't fail because it couldn't run, actually. So now it should fail. Let's see. Oh, there we go. Failure. Failure. You're a failure. No. All right, data source delegate. All right, table view delegate equal to self. And I want to do this here in the extension. We have to conform to those protocols. Otherwise, Xcode is gonna. And I didn't do this right. You need to extend the SearchViewController and then conform to them. I got ahead of myself. It happens sometimes. It happens. All right, and I just like to do Command B, and that way Xcode gives us the stubs, and you don't have to type it out. It's just two functions. For this one, we'll return. Let's return like 8 or something. Let's sell, and here we have to register, or not register, but DQ a reusable cell basically. Index path and then return cell. And now this should go. Hey, there we go. And what we want to do now is we want to test the table view. Because we have our, remember when you have a collection of items, you want to test 0, 1, and many. So, I mean, to be honest, we could copy and paste this whole function. Should we do that? I don't know. I want to write this, but let me know in the comments if we should copy and paste. I mean, you guys can't copy. Actually, you could actually, right? But I think you might learn more if you don't copy and paste it. So given set the articles. Oh, and one thing we have to actually do, have to copy paste it. But let's bring in this function because we're gonna need a function that, or it'd be helpful to have a function that creates the articles for us, so we don't have to do this. And all right, and actually it might be even helpful to create this an extension to XC test, although we don't have to do that for example. All right, and let's see. I think we're getting an error because our SearchViewController doesn't have any articles. So let's do that now. So we want to do an array of article, and you want to have put the parentheses there. And what this basically says is we're creating an array, an empty array, and letting it note that the types of the elements in the array are article, basically. So an empty array of type article. That's what this line does. And now we should be good. So when the view loads, so set view, load view if needed, then SET assert, what are we going to assert? Equal that our table view dot number of rows in section 0, we only have one section, section 0, this should be equal to 0. Oh, what? And it's failing. Oh yeah, I remember. I know why now. Because right here we didn't actually put articles.count equal to. Now we run this. We should be good. Golden. And now let's test. Let's run the test for many items. Dun, dun, dun. I'm tempted to I'm gonna copy and paste now. Just to save us some time for this one. Oh, I skipped. We have to test. we have to test one item. The table view has one item. All right. And this one I'll write it out because I'll copy and pasted the other one. Actually, did I run this test? Let's run this test actually before we. You gotta run the test. All right, there we go. So the test passes. So let article equal create of length 1. Set the articles equals article. When set the load view if needed. Then what are we going to do? XCT assert equal set dot table view. Number of rows. You know, a lot of repetition. That's all coding is about. Repeat. Haha. And let's do command U because I haven't ran this test at the bottom. And we're good. Frozen? All right. Sorry, y'all. My camera was frozen. I think it's been on for a while, so it was having some issues. All right, so now we tested all the table views in our view controller. And actually, before we move on, though, I actually want to let's implement some height for row at return 80. Right, and let's do did select. And this basically just this adds a deselect animation. So when you select it, it doesn't just stay grayed out, or it doesn't stay selected basically. And the color depends on if you're using dark mode or light mode, I believe. And that's pretty much it for the table. Although, if we want to test this, actually no, let's just run our test, make sure we didn't break anything with this. And let's run our project, although you're not going to see anything. You shouldn't see anything if it's correct, because if it's done correctly. I had a little mini stroke there. All right, come on, simulator. Oh, it's in light mode, there we go. And yeah, we don't see anything. Because we don't have any, we haven't given this any information. Doesn't have any articles, so boom. One thing we want to test so we want to test if we did create the search controller in our search view controller. Because we need to create a UI search controller to help us deal with the it'll help us deal with the search functionality. The other method would be, what's the other method? The other method is to implement a UI search bar, but that makes things a lot more complicated. The UI search controller that Xcode gives us is really helpful because you don't have to configure your search bar. You just have to kind of configure like the results, how you want the results to be displayed. But we'll see. We'll get into that. So what do you want to assert here actually? So I want to assert not nil. So the search controller is not nil. Let's run this, and there's no item called search controller. So we have to create one. Search controller equals a UI search controller, and I think we could pass in nil here, and that'll get our thing to pass. We want to test did configure search controller with results updater. And what this is basically doing, so UI search controllers, they have I believe it's a protocol called results, what is it? No, it's called search results updater. And that lets you know, it's a very helpful function that lets you know when the results have updated, basically. It helps us update our results, basically. And ICT assert not nil set search controller dot results updater. All right. We're running our tests, and this should fail because we haven't set it. Boom. So now we need to go. Where should we do this? Actually, we don't have. It's here. All we have to do is set it to self, and we'll get an error because we don't conform to it. And I want to create an extension. What is the protocol? It's the UI search result updating. All right, and I think this one we have to implement a function. All right, yeah, here we go. So, yep, update search results, and we're going to use this once we configure our results. Or once we configure our search controller, actually, not our results. And we run this and we should be golden. Hey, there we go. We're good. All right, so we have nil here, right? And what we actually want to put in here is a search results view controller. Oh, controller. And what do we want to do? We have to actually let's create a group called search. Just put in this in here and a new file. Go touch class called SearchResultsViewController. All right. And we can get rid of this stuff. Let's put a fake background actually. Let's do cayenne. I like cayenne. It's a cool color. All right. So now we have our search controller set up, and let's see what happens. Actually, let's run our project. And where's the search bar? Hey. Oh, there's one thing I forgot to do. So we have to set the navigation item .search controller. And that's actually another test we need to run actually. Did create search controller. Let's put this here. ICT assert. Navigation item search controller. And this will fail because we need to go to navigation item search controller and set it equal to our search controller. And let's do Command U to run this, and then we can oh, yeah, they pass. Hey. We'll call this did set search controller. So they passed, but what we need to refactor though. We need to refactor. So let's call this private func configure search controller. And we can remove this. Boom. Oh, we need to call it configure search controller. Right. Run our tests to make sure we didn't mess anything up. All right, our test succeeded, and now let's run our project, and now we should see the search bar. Bam! There we go. And we have our search bar, right? And then if you click on it, and I think if you type, there we go. If you type the search results view controller, it starts showing up. And that's how we created that. Because otherwise, like, you know, what is it going to show? It starts, this is basically shows up once something is written here. That's what we use this delegate for. When the search results are updating, it calls that search controller, the search results view controller. And in the search results view controller, we actually are going to do something kind of similar here. We need to set up another table view of article, and then another array of articles, which we're going to use to update our table. And it's kind of repetitive, but it's a pretty nice and clean way of using the search view controller. I mean the UI search controller, basically. And we're actually going to do that in the next episode. So y'all tune in. I hope you enjoyed this video. We went over the search view controller and we started implementing our UI search controller. And yeah, let me know in the comments what you guys think, if it was helpful, if you have any issues, if you have any bugs like me. Actually, let me see if I still have that bug. I can't Command A. I can't Shift Command A. Lets you switch between light and dark mode. It doesn't let me do it easily. So yeah, but that's neither here or there. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Y'all have a good one. Peace.
I'm riding between it all in this perfect play. I'm a piece of the puzzle, I'm a fit where you need me.